My name is Anna Monaco, and I work at the Center for Healthcare Engineering and Patient Safety, or CHEPS. CHEPS is a research center jointly created by the University of Michigan Medical School and the College of Engineering to improve the delivery of healthcare through a multidisciplinary, systems-based approach. We partner with departments across the university, such as medicine, nursing, public health, and various departments of engineering, to create and implement solutions to real-world problems in healthcare. As engineers, we strive to make things simpler and more efficient for people in many ways. As a chief resident, one of the jobs is to create the monthly schedule which dictates when each resident will work. But these schedules can take the chief resident from hours to days to complete. The Residency shift scheduling game demonstrates the use of linear programming and operations modeling to create an efficient schedule. More broadly, it illustrates that scheduling problems can be very complicated, but you can use industrial operations engineering techniques to solve these problems efficiently.
To access the game, start at your homepage and navigate to the internet browser of your choice. Head to the CHEPS website at cheps.engine.umich.edu. Once at the CHEPS website, head to the Tools section and click on Residency Shift Scheduling Game. This page here gives you a brief overview of the game, as well as gives you access to the 2 downloads required to run the game. This OpenSolver installation link will guide you through how to download and install OpenSolver, which is a required VBA add-in to use the game. I'll assume you've completed this already and start with the game itself. Click on this link to download. Go ahead and open up the game and enable editing and content to allow the game to work properly. Now that you have the game open, you can navigate to the various pages by selecting these tabs here on the bottom, or by using these buttons that correspond to the page in which you'd like to move. If we start on the background page, you can see a brief overview of some of the challenges we face when scheduling medical residents in an emergency department. The game introduction page has an overview of how to play this simplified version of the game. The schedule requirements page gives you a few definitions and the rules you must follow when building your schedule. And finally, you will build your schedule on this last tab here. Now navigate to the Schedule Requirements tab. As said before, this tab overviews some of the definitions and rules that you need to know when building your schedule. Night shifts are defined as the 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. and 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. shifts. Interns are first-year residents. These 2 definitions will come into play with some of the rules. The first rule being that every shift needs a resident. The second is that every resident must be assigned to between 12 and 16 shifts, with 2 to 5 of these shifts being night shifts. This ensures that the workload is being spread evenly among all the residents. Next, residents must have at least a 10-hour break after their most recent shift before they can begin work again. Let's take this night shift here as an example. The 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. shift ends at 8 a.m. 10 hours after 8 a.m. is 6 p.m. But the most recent shift after 6 p.m. to begin is this one, the 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. shift. So if a resident works the 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. shift, the next eligible shift they could work is the 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. shift the next day. Interns cannot work the first shift or the last shift of the day. And finally, each resident has a specific day of week he or she cannot work. This could be due to the resident having a clinic that day, and therefore they can't work in the emergency department. And all this information will be specified in the Residence Requirements section on the Build Your Schedule tab. Overall, these rules are quite simplified from the real-world scheduling problem we face. Some of the things we ignore in this simplified version are that residents have vacation requests and we work to grant as many as possible. We also try to avoid bad sleep patterns, as well as avoiding a certain number of consecutive days worked for a resident. Now navigate to the Build Your Schedule page. Here is where you will actually play the game and build your schedule. Along the top, you'll see 2 buttons. The Error Summary button will create a report detailing any errors in your current schedule. The Clear Schedule button will do just that and clear your current schedule to allow you to begin fresh. In the Resident Requirements section, you have each resident's name, whether or not they're an intern, and what days they cannot work. Below this, you have the 10-hour rest rule, which shows given a certain initial shift, which next shift the resident is eligible to work. The Shift Requirements section shows that all residents must work between 12 and 16 total shifts, and between 2 and 5 night shifts. And finally, all interns cannot work the first or last shift of a day. Moving back to the top, here is where you will insert the resident's name to assign them to a certain shift. The shifts are listed here along the side, noting that blue shifts are day shifts and purple shifts are night shifts. To assign a resident to a given shift, simply type their name. Let's start here with Resident Elder. Since Elder is not an intern, he can work this first shift of the day, and he's also okay to work on Mondays since Saturdays are the day he can't work. We would follow the similar process moving down the remainder of the Monday, maybe assigning Khan, then Quick, then Stumpos, then Vidal, Yi, and finally Zamora, noting that since Zamora is not an intern, this is an eligible assignment for her. You would continue this process for the remainder of June, all the way to this last Tuesday. Type the resident's name to assign them to a shift, being careful to observe all of the rules. Once you have your schedule completely filled out with residents' names, we can examine the schedule to see how many errors it has by clicking on the Error Summary button. This will open a tab that details the number of errors and where they're occurring. So for instance, there are 8 residents who don't have at least 12 shifts, 7 residents who have more than 16, and so on for a total of 75 violations. We can dive further into these errors by clicking on the Error Details button, which will show us where the errors are occurring based on each resident. We can scroll down further and see if we have any spelling errors or any 10-hour rest rule violations based on each resident and where the 10-hour rest rule violation is occurring in the schedule. So as you can see, it takes a long time to create a schedule by hand, and it's quite prone to errors as there are many rules to follow. To make this simpler and more efficient, we can use industrial engineering techniques such as linear programming. If you click on the Use Optimization to Build a Schedule tab, this will open a linear program that we have programmed into this Excel sheet using OpenSolver. Click Run Optimizer to run the optimizer in the background, which is running the linear program that follows the constraints we gave you earlier in the game, such as the 10-hour rest rule and the minimum and maximum number of shifts. You can see it's creating the variables right now, which are which resident is assigned to which shift, and when it's finished, it will populate this table here with binary variables, and then using logic, we'll fill the table in with the residents' names. So, while that may have seemed like a while, about 30 seconds, it certainly is much faster than doing it by hand. And we can click this button here, Optimize Schedule Statistics, to see just how good this schedule is. This tab here is very similar to the Error Details tab that we looked at earlier, and we can see that there aren't any errors. The number of shifts is within range for both the day and the night shifts, as well as the other rules detailed earlier in this video. So we can see that using industrial engineering techniques such as linear programming can really simplify these complex scheduling problems and ultimately save time for chief residents and others who are forced to create schedules in their jobs.
Thank you for watching. If you'd like to learn more about CHEPS or the Residency Shift Scheduling tool, please visit cheps.engine.umich.edu. Under the Tools tab on the left, you'll find the link for downloading the Residency Shift Scheduling game, as well as a user guide for the tool. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at cheps-contact@umich.edu. Thanks again for watching.